Thank you, everyone. It's really nice to be here with you, and I'm so honored you showed up for this talk. I'm going to assume, and tell me, raise your hand. Are you interested in your soul and being connected to your soul? And you're also somehow interested in the Akashic Records? Like that's sort of an addendum to, let me know my soul. I want to know my soul, right? Good. Wow, I'm going to dive in mostly with what the Akashic Records are and what they're not and how they can help you. And my book is designed and wrapped around this work in the Akashic Records because the Akashic Records are a soul level plane of consciousness that is always available anywhere in its entirety, wherever you are. And even wherever the person I'm reading for is. And that consciousness, that plane of consciousness is so finely vibrating that it records everything that a soul has ever said, thought, or done. And this is not just the book of bad judgment, like, well, in 1392, I was and then they hung me. It's the things where you got disappointed or you made up your mind about this is the nature of love, so I got to be careful, protect myself. Or, all the experiences you've ever had as a soul throughout time. And so the Akashic Records are really a resource now available to just everybody. You don't have to be a spiritual savant to be able to open your records. You do have to follow a good prayer at the beginning to open them up. And then at the end, you close with a prayer. And that creates a sanctuary, a safe, sacred, energetic space for you to be in while you explore the Akashic Records for yourself. Now, the Akashic Records there are three principles that are the guiding lights of the Akashic Records, and they're resist not, fear not, and judge not. And so when you're in your Akashic Records, there's no judgment. Like, it's astounding to be in a space where there's no judgment. Your mind may want to kick up some dust that looks pretty much like judgment, but that's, sort of like, oh, well, never mind. We don't have to pay attention to that. There's a detachment and an ability in the records to be in a space that's free of that. And it's calming to the mind to be in that space. Also, with my prayer, you embody your soul's light. And that allows you, there's an 8th chakra above our heads, that's the soul chakra. And that soul chakra pours its light into you, creating a column between it and the 8th chakra and the crown chakra, and then filling your whole body. And that connects you with your soul and with the divine. Because the soul literally functions as a connection for you, the human, and the divine. And that's a yummy resource. It's very, very handy. And you can just do that. Embody your soul's light anytime driving down the road. Okay, I'm worried about things. I think I'll embody my soul's light, connect with the divine, and let the divine handle what I'm worried about. That's not a really complicated. You don't need 7 steps. To do that. It's just, it comes in naturally. Okay, I can feel my crown chakra vibrating. You guys are getting that light from your crown, your soul, right? There you go. So, what else about the Akashic Records? In the Akashic Records, it's energy first, information second. And that's because light is energy. And I'm like all about the light. And energy does the transformative work on us. So even if it's not like a glamorous or, detailed explanation, the energy works on us to help us as humans evolve. And that helps our souls evolve. And as our souls evolve, then we evolve. as humans, and it sort of, we parallel each other. We chase each other up the evolutionary ladder. And it's a very loving, healing, heartfelt connection with the soul. There's a chapter in here, I believe it's chapter 11, it's your spiritual heart, and it's just yummy. It happens to be a little bit esoteric. That particular chapter is pretty esoteric because it talks about how the spiritual heart functions. It's bigger than your physical heart or your heart chakra. And so when you think of opening and embodying or activating your spiritual heart, the energy gets so much easier. I had to road test this one. My dad and his wife were dying in 2000, 2001, and there were 6 of us kids helping to take care of them, and some hired people, and 24/7 around at home, and it was a full schedule. And my dad would get these urinary tract infections, and this really mild-mannered, loving, thoughtful mathematician, logical guy, he started hearing voices. And I'm like, this is new. Oh, what is this? And they weren't very nice. And so we were having dinner once or breakfast or something like that. And I knew that if I asked the wrong question, I was probably going to get kind of bit. It's going to be sharp with me or judgmental or not the dad I was accustomed to. And so my guide said, open your spiritual heart. And I did that, and it was like, I relaxed. Everything in me went, oh, it's going to be all right. And he relaxed, and everything sailed along beautifully. And that was just one of the things that helped me. And I learned that in my Akashic Records, from my guides in the Akashic Records. Now, what else do you need to know about the Akashic Records? The Akashic Records hold everything that has happened, has the possibility of happening, and is happening now. So you can do some time travel. In my experience, doing readings about the future in the Akashic Records aren't great because you and I are making decisions every day that change our future, that change the probability of what can happen. And, it's like a warp and weft here, and, it's kind of moving, undulating, and we go, I'm going to get coffee. And that wasn't on the plan, and I meet so-and-so, and all of a sudden my life changes in this way, and, like that happens. And so that puts future predictions a little bit in it's the probability of what could happen, not what is cast in stone. Now, the blueprint of the soul is set, but it's more set about your character, your response to life. Am I a wallflower, or am I a go-getter? Am I front, or am I watching from the sidelines? Am I in the middle of the pack, like following, where do we go? It's like, it's got that kind of feel to it. What is my sensibility? What are my leanings, and what would be odd behavior for me and my soul's blueprint? And that's really important when you do readings, because there are 3 levels of healing that can take place in the records. And that is at the level of the story, like I was out with Uncle Bill, and we went on a boat, and then this happened, and that caused me to be upset about this. And that's like the story, right? And that's the details of that story. But that's a kind of like a very human level. There's the causes and conditions. That's the second level. And that's more like, because my soul formatting and my patterning about love from my family members and our point of view or in our religious strain or whatever, I'm most likely going to react this way. And then there's the soul level healing. that takes place in the Akashic Records. And that's where there's a shift in the blueprint of the soul. I'm pointing in my head because in when I do readings, it's like, oh, there's a blueprint in their soul. And it's sort of like lights that light up in a pattern in their crown chakra. And I'll check it when I first start reading for them, and then I'll check it further down the line in the reading, and they'll be like, oh, that shifted. Okay, that's different. Okay. And, that would be my clue to speak that. And there might be some information from your masters, teachers, and loved ones who are your spiritual team in your Akashic Records. And a little bit about them, they're really handy. They're really helpful. They mostly channel this book. Your masters are pure light beings. They come to your side as soon as the divine makes you into a point of light and consciousness, and from then into a soul. Your masters show up and come to your side, and they're with you throughout every incarnation, every in-between incarnations. They're with you if you're studying with some masters on a different planet. They're with you when you're down here scrubbing the kitchen floor. They're whatever. They're with you. They also happen to think you're the cat's pajamas. Best thing, they love you. They just think you're just wonderful. And they're very supportive. And so rather than come across with like, well, we told you so, or, some kind of judgmental or, not very helpful remark, they'll come through and go, well, it makes sense that you would do that or feel that, or of course. And so the conversation never hits a wall, like where there's some shutdown point. It's always like, they're always accepting whatever you want to be, however you want to get there, that's fine. Oh, you'd like to take this detour into the dark side, Annie. Okay, well, we're going to follow you into the dark side because it seems to be important to you in your soul path, and we'll be with you and help you through that. And so the masters are just lovely. I don't necessarily like that term, the masters, because in my world, there's masters and then there's slaves, right? So I just want to be equals. But my masters never treat me as less than. So it's a unified force for good. And then teachers in your Akashic Records are beings of light that specialize in a particular topic. Maybe I need a teacher about love or money or time or guilt or, you name the topic, doubt, whatever it is. I'll have a teacher for that. And so I can, as I study those topics, this teacher will work with me. And it's a very subtle relationship, it just sort of like, it might be that a class in how to heal self-doubt comes along and I could take that and that works for me, and that happens to move me further down the chessboard or something like that. Loved ones. So there's masters, teachers, and loved ones in your Akashic Records. Loved ones are people you've known in this lifetime, but who are now dead. They really loved you, and they want to just sort of keep an eye on your progress. So they sometimes are available in your Akashic Records. If there's a big thing to be settled, I've done readings for a lot of people who have, an issue with their dad or something. And in this one gentleman came to me, and he was just very tidy. He was freshly showered. His clothing was crisp and thoughtful and just right. And he was very concerned about all the little details, and he was a mortgage broker, and which is a good thing. You need a mortgage broker who's going to find all the T's and dot the I's and chase the details down. He was also homosexual, and his father didn't get along with him at all. They had a horrible relationship. And his father was now dead, and he came through and he said, son, I didn't know how to love you. I didn't know how I could produce love or express love that was in an acceptable way to you or to me. And like he just couldn't bridge that gap between heterosexual and non-heterosexual life. And that was the thing that guy needed to hear. And it really set him free. Like that has not been an issue for him anymore. You know, or they'll show up and it's like, did your dad drive an old, really older, like the 40s model green Chevy pickup truck and wear big plaid shirts? Yeah, he's in his truck, got an arm out the window. He's like talking to you, you know, and they'll make themselves known. Now, sometimes the loved ones have nothing to say, but they're just providing loving support from the sidelines. But this is the environment you get to work in when you're working in the Akashic Records. And my book, Bringing Forth Soul Consciousness, brings that through so that you and your soul can evolve and enjoy life more and feel like you're more on track. When I started channeling, it was 1988, and I was a follower of Sanaya Roman and Dwayne Packer, Luminescence, if anybody knew of them. They wrote the book Opening to Channel way back when. Like, they taught big groups of people how to channel before everybody, when the old days when everybody thought, well, you just had to be born with the gift, right? You couldn't be taught it. You just had to be born with it. And so they were teaching people how. And they wrote a book. And I had to learn how to channel because I wanted to be in one of their classes called Awakening Your Light Body. And they'd sent me a letter, and I received this letter, and I'm just like vibrating. I've got to take this class. I got to take this class. It's like $500 for the class. And this is about 1988, yeah. And I'm like already made up my mind. I don't care if I have to rack my credit cards. I'm going. It's like, that's it. But the prerequisite was that you had to be able to channel. And I was like, okay, get the book. I get the book. I bought a Sony, boombox tape recorder because when I had readings with Sanaya, she always recorded them. And I thought that was really good because the intensity of the energy of the experience was so good and so yummy. I just wanted to feel it over and over and over again. And that set the bar for like what a good reading is. Forever. I've been trying to reach that. I don't know. Hopefully I can do that for people in my own way. Anyway, so I followed the book. I sat down in my living room. I started the tape because, who knows, maybe I start channeling and it brings through the greatest news that humanity's ever heard, but just in case. And I did not happen. I did not have that big an experience, but I just sat in the quiet and I opened the back of my head and neck and brought my guide in, and I felt the difference between my energy and my guide's energy. It was very clear, but it's very loving and very safe. It wasn't threatening or icky in any way. It didn't feel invasive. It felt respectful, and like we were just sort of kind of finding out, well, what does it feel like over here? And who's over there? What happens if you look at things this way or that way? And I asked this guide, I had asked, as the instructions in the book say, ask for a high guide whose higher purpose blends with your own. Now, I had no idea that I had a higher purpose at this age. I mean, I'm like barely 30. No, I'm not even 30. Anyway, it's young. So I had no idea that I had soul purpose or a higher purpose. And, but I'm asking the questions. And so I said, can I have a name? And it came through like 12 or 13 syllables of Hindi, and I am not a Hindi speaker. And I was like, I could follow the sounds, but I couldn't recreate them, and I couldn't remember them. So I said, well, next time I'll ask for a shorter name because I really want to remember. And so I didn't get any words so much this time, but the second time when I asked for a shorter name, and I could feel the guide's energy come in, getting really warm in the back of my neck and head. Like, my guide, Anubis is here, and came through as Anubis, and I had no idea, like, that there was an Anubis god of the afterworld in Egyptian mythology. I was just like putting together syllables. But Anubis has been very, very loving and very kind all along the way, and he stayed by my side and took care of me and helped me get through being disabled for about 10 years with multiple sclerosis, and that was pretty rugged. And be taught to walk again. This arm was useless for a couple of months, and slurring, some vision problems, balance, walking like weaving down the sidewalk. I'm like, no, I'm not drunk yet. And also going through getting clean and sober. And I've been sober for almost, it'll be 24 years in November. So it's stuck, but it feels good. And I love the way of going about life from a spiritual perspective, and that includes everything that I do as a channel and as a Akashic Records practitioner and like that. So I went to this writing class in April of 2019, and it's the first day we sit down to write. I start typing, we're doing it online, and I start typing, and my guides, the Akashic beings of light, come through and they start channeling the introduction to this book. And I'm like, book? Nobody said we're writing a book. I've never I never got a memo. Nobody ever gave me a heads up. And they're like, that's fine, just keep typing. And I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna just keep following this thread. Channeling and following energy work, it's like, what's the energy doing and where does it go? And I'm just trying to track it, and let me just stay with it and see where it goes, and does it change, and how does it feel in my body, and does it bring up any kind of words or pictures? And then I'm trying to put that through the laptop and get that on paper. And so I ended up with like 52 chapters, which my friends who helped me edit helped me get rid of 12. So there's only 40 chapters. It's this huge teaching manual, and it teaches you how to read your Akashic Records in chapter 2. And from then on, you open your records before every chapter, and you take in the information that's channeled there. Anubis channeled some of this. The Akashic beings of light channeled most of the chapters, and the Akashic beings of light call the divine, and she's feminine, the great creatress. And so she channeled some of the chapters as well. And so it has that kind of feminine, healing, nurturing sense. And people have said, like, there's a lot of meditative quality to these topics. And what I understand, it's because every time I sat down to write, I was in various conditions. Like, this is my only little place where I got an hour or two I can write, and I'm all rattled because I'm taking care of my elderly parents. I don't know, I'm running my own business, and I got to make dinner tonight, and but like that. And they're like, they come in and they're like, of course you're feeling rushed and busy and distracted and off center and slightly irritated, and then they have to kind of talk me off the ledge. So you get the benefit of all of this, because this is how they got me into shape to actually write on the topic. Because they would open with these incredible topics like how the soul is constructed. I'm like, I don't know anything about this. Maybe you want to get the gal next door or somebody who's more informed. No, we want you just to keep writing. It's all right. Just listen to the words. So I just listened to the words and got them on paper, and I was like, this is amazing. So, sometimes it was way out of my ballpark, but it really made me stretch. And that following the energy, it was like, really? That's how it works? I mean, give me that a little clearer. We would just work with it, and they would just keep working with. My poor little mind has to hold some of these concepts, and this is very energetic book, and it's very energetic material. But they try to hit both be able to get things into your mind without losing that other part of you that learns at a whole other level, like at soul level. So, my book is $24. I have a bunch of them at my table out there. I have a booth out there. I'm doing readings today. You can get a psychic reading or you can get an Akashic Records reading. You can buy my book. My readings are, for psychic readings, it's like $60. For an Akashic Records reading, it's $75, which is an enormous reduction from my normal rate of $204. So get me while I'm hot and present. Let's see. Oh, you must have questions. Okay. No? Okay. Have you ever, who's had an Akashic Records reading? All right. Did I read for you years ago? At the Crystal Fair?
Yes, actually.
I remember that. The redhead. Crazy redhead. No, you weren't, but you were seeing somebody else, or kind of. Anyway, never mind. Your private business. But anyway, so he's had a reading, and so you guys are just really curious. What makes you curious about the Akashic Records? Like, it's around. Like, what is this stuff, right? Yes.
So you have Akashic Record, and so can you find out what kinds of things you did before, or what kinds of karmic things you need to clear up?
I could have planted you. This is exactly what I needed to hear. Yes. The Akashic Records, since they hold everything in the soul has ever said, thought, or done in any lifetime, at any place and location in energetic world, including Earth or off planet, is an excellent source for if you like to go into what happened in a past. Did I have any past life experiences where I got killed, or I killed somebody else, or I really was at loggerheads with my father, mother, brother, boss, something like that. If this whole issue feels like it's really, really old, then you can open your records, and there are lots of processes. There are 13 processes in here that you can follow that are energetic processes, and several of them are past lives, working with your future self. That's a fun one. And ancestral influences. Oh my God. My mom's side of the family is like, they appear to me like a whole line of people in kind of dusty, faded black gowns and suits, and they're ministers, and very, they're Methodist mostly on that side of the family, and very spare, very they not flash, none of this. No, thank you. I happen to like it a lot, but so I feel like they're part of my team as well, and sometimes they're pushing me in certain ways or holding me back. And I see this a lot in readings, like, oh, your ancestors. First off, they showed me the ancestors will put you forth at a time when they know there's going to be a big breakthrough in the family traditions, and like the family rule book gets like, wait a minute, we're going to rewrite this. We're getting rid of the old rules, and they want you to go out and blaze the trail for them. Like, okay, I'm the front runner. I got to chop down the grass. I got to mow through it. I got to take the hard knocks, and I can show them the way afterwards. And oftentimes the ancestors will go, well, we know we put you up to this, but we're a little worried, and we'd like you to slow down because it's really dangerous, and I think you're going to get killed. And remember in 17 where they hung you? It's like they'll bring up that kind of stuff, and that's like can be the source of what's kind of hemming you in or holding you back or not letting you really like take off. And they usually give some way of being loving about this, because they always do things in a loving manner, and say, just lovingly expand to include there are some people in the ancestral line who are afraid, and that's fine. Fear is fine. You don't have to be ruled by it. It just needs to be acknowledged. And it's very calm. It's very loving. It's not like you gotta resist them, you gotta fight back, you gotta get armed with your arguments, and it's not like that. It's just like, oh, of course. When they were alive, this is how you stayed alive, was not to step out or be the different one or be loud about what happens on the fringes, and stay in the middle of the pack, don't act out, right? So you might be the person who's like, oh, well, what edges? I don't believe in fences. I'm going to hop this one, and just keep going forward. And ancestors are very influential in our lives, and sometimes it's in a good way, sometimes it's in a bad way. And that can be dealt with, and there are opportunities to work with that in this book. And working with your future self is really fun. You can actually receive light and energy from your future self. Like, what's it like 2 years down the road when I've completely gotten over whatever I think is the big deal right now, my obstacle or my hurdle, what's it like further down the road when this is, been handled? Like, it's like, oh, it all worked out, and just receiving the energy of that calm, and you succeeded at what you're up to, and you didn't die, and it wasn't this enormous problem, and you didn't have a festering wound forever afterwards or anything like that. It's just like, oh, okay, it kind of makes being able to see a little further down the road, like, for me, I always feel like I'm barely shown what's the next step, like where's the next footfall, and I'm walking in a dark night, and what lights up is like the white stone that edges the path on this side, and it might have a word next to it like peace, and then I had this one, and that says wisdom, and this step says, relax, of course I'm wearing practical shoes. So those are the things you can do. You can work with your ancestors, you can work with past lives, you can work with future lives in the Akashic Records. When people say you can go and I'll just take that out of your records for you, and it's like, no, sorry. We humans do not have control of a vibrational level plane of consciousness. No, that would be a mistake, don't you think? I mean, I lost an earring, so what am I doing in the records? Like, you have to be really a high-level being to maintain the pristine purity of the records. And we just get to access them for information so that we can be more loving with ourselves and with others. One of my teachers said, it's really just about how can I unconditionally love myself and others even more. And every problem I'm having is usually something about loving myself unconditionally or loving someone else unconditionally. Like that. I don't know what time it is. They want me to finish on 10 schedule. Oh, we have.
You have 12 more minutes.
Yes, thank you, timekeeper. So have any questions come to mind in this? Like, yes.
Dreams.
People keep asking me that, and I don't know anything about dreams. I dream, but I don't record them, and once in a while I've had some big dreams, but it's been a while. And I'm not a specialist in that, and I don't know if the dreams take us to the Akashic Records or not, or it's a plane of consciousness for sure where stuff can happen. And I mean, my sweetheart reports his dreams every day. It's like, okay, what'd you dream about last night? He's got the whole story, and then I went there and I forgot and then I had to find him, and what, it's a whole line. And I'm like, I don't remember him. I'm sorry, I was busy sleeping. So I'm not an expert in that, but if you learn how to open your records and you say, what is the nature of dreams? And how is that helpful for the soul, or however you want to frame the consciousness? The question, let me know what you get, because it keeps coming up. So I'm going to need to, you're the third person. So that's sort of like, Annie, maybe you have to go into your records and ask the guides, what is the deal with dreams and the Akashic Records? Is there a connection? So, yeah, we'll report back to each other. Great question. So, if you had the opportunity to go in your Akashic Records and say, how the heck was that asshole good for me? Pardon my language, we're not on recording. Lots of class, all of it low. You could find out the answer to that. How was that person good for me? And I've seen it time and again where people who were molested, both male and female, it was a learning how to deal with power and what not to do. Because they had past lives where they mishandled their power, and they needed to have lives where they learned what it's like to be on the other end of that stick, and how to handle power in an enlightened and compassionate way. And that's not a flat answer for everybody. That was just what I've seen a lot in the records and in readings for people. But like, what about the guy from New York who was our sales manager, and he used to have us come in the office and he'd say, all right, you sluts, let's have a sales meeting. I'm like, I'm 23, and I'm like, I don't think you're supposed to talk that way to us. And, he had a perspective that was a very different from mine. I was raised in Marin County, so I was kind of, on the edge of hippy-dippy and free love and all that. And so I'm sort of set in that camp. That's my orientation. How many of you are interested in buying this book? Well, thank you. Great. Come to my table in my booth out there. I would love to have you have a book. And you know what? I sign them, and I often put a little message in there just I channel it, like what you want this book to say. And then I put this sticker on there that says autographed copy, and that makes it more valuable. But the price is the same. Who wants to learn to open their records? Good. You know what?
How do you open your records?
Well, I teach you in this book, I use a prayer. And I think that's the best way to start any spiritual healing introspection for myself or with other people. And I think that just really sets the tone of what you're up to. And the prayer's lovely. And it evokes the Akashic beings of light who oversee our work in the Akashic Records. It evokes the great creatress. And so we've got, in my world, that's the big kahuna. That's the divine herself. And it evokes your masters, teachers, and loved ones, your personal masters, teachers, and loved ones, because they're going to be different than somebody else's. And so then you learn how to ask questions, and questions that start with what, how, and why elicit the most information from the records. Unless you want to ask, should I do this? Yes or no? That's a short visit. I think you want more information. And so that's why I recommend you ask questions that are what, why, and how. And then if you get information from your masters, teachers, and loved ones, or from the Akashic beings of light, or you just sort of, it comes through. And I recommend that you write your experiences, about your experiences in there. And in my world, and I've been channeling since 1988. I've been doing this a long time, and I've been taught a lot of energy tools about following and being sensitive and registering the energy. So you want to note how it feels in your body. Like when I first started channeling, I get this little twinge or something in my neck with certain people, and I thought, oh, my neck is doing a twinge. And they taught me, like, no, that means ask them about their neck. Because, oh, okay, is there something going on with your neck? Or the energy is moving some way in their neck while their records are open. You want to track your body activity, any sensations you have physically. You want to see if you get a little flash, like, what was that? Like, you want to really unpack that flash, because that flash could be like this little snapshot of that hut you lived in way back when in another life that looked like this, and all you had in the cupboard was like one crust of bread, and you're dressed in a certain way, and that kind of tells you what time of the life, this past life that you're seeing is in. You're laughing. You get that information too? Did that come through for you? Yeah. And I think it's great that you're laughing. It makes me laugh too. And register if there's a feeling of like heat, or if there is a set of a word or a set of words, like a phrase that seems to be important, that the Akashic beings of light or your masters, teachers, and loved ones are really pressing upon you. That's an indicative of what you're getting as the information. And you get to be a beginner. I'm not going to learn to be a tennis pro. I see you there. Do I need to stop, Barbara? Be a beginner. I'm not going to be a tennis pro at this age right off the bat. Thank you very much. But I can learn things new. And my guides have taught me, look, sometimes you just have to grow some new neural pathways to learn new things. Like, I am not the best at technology, but my life has taken me into technology. Like, how the heck do you publish a book? You'd think it was simple the way they talk about it. It's not. The book cover is 1/16 of an inch too big. All right. So there's a lot to do with that. Anyway, and then at the end of the session with your records, you close the records with a prayer, mostly of gratitude, of thanks to the beings that helped you. And that's, like I said, sets this container that's really loving and sacred and safe to explore, because, we're humans exploring a very fine layer of soul level consciousness. How does this work? You can ask your guides, what's the best way to create a relationship with you that will help me learn how to work in my Akashic records most beneficially for myself or for others? You can ask. Questions are can openers in the Akashic records. You'd be surprised, really surprised. So, do I need to wrap it up, Barbara?
You have about 2 minutes.
Questions?
And you can all go to Anna's booth, because she's got the perfect booth out there for all of you, where she will answer every question under the sun.
We'll clog up the hall, walkways. Anything that scares the hoo-ha out of you, of being said, you're like, no, what happened? What if I do this? Anybody scared? Great. Yes.
Can I give you some closing questions? First of all, you put it wonderfully. I think last year, the year before, you talked about your self-healing, which was extremely powerful. I was at the beginning of my journey for Akashic Records healing. So very powerful. Yeah, so everything is so resonates so much with what I see as well. In my case, I'm very clairvoyant, so I see things, so it helps a lot. But basically, what I see is that the readings give you what you need more than what you want. So some people say, hey, am I gonna date this person, right? And you're gonna get sometimes, a long answer.
Twice, then that's it, right?
Right, it's not a yes or no, but the answers really come for your healing
Yeah,
and your spiritual growth. This
Right.
this is really what it is. Very powerful.
right.
Like
The records might answer back, like, if you're trying to plug up holes in you think that are weaknesses in you and find somebody else to help you do that, you might want to think again about dating and reorganize, how do I come to a partnership as an equal with another equal and have an enjoyable connection that's diverse and healthy and creative and promotes our life purposes. Like, not that he's gonna finally pay off my credit card so I'm not in debt anymore, or a nurse with a
right,
purse.
and then the last thing I wanted to say is that when I read my own Akashic Records, and again, the visions really help a lot, but I always get unexpected things, and that's actually I think it confirms the fact that I'm not making this up, because the biggest problem is that you don't know what's coming and what you're making up. Basically,
Yeah. And you sometimes have to just go with what seems like you're making it up, but if I keep on this line, there seems to be more information that just keeps coming, and I gotta keep talking, keep telling the story, and it keeps coming, it gets more and more and more elaborate, and it's like, and the person you're reading for is going, this is so right on, and it's like, really? I was worried it was my
No,
imagination.
sometimes actually there are things that unfold during the reading, and basically, the first question I had this vision, and I just can't explain. Then as it unfolds, it makes sense, and then it reconnects with some other questions down the reading. So it's. I'm telling you all this because people may not really understand what's going on, but during the reading, all these dynamics which are wonderful, in my opinion. So thank you so much.
Really good information, what he's saying, really
I just
good.
want to support, your work and what you said, basically, different
Thank you.
point of
Thank you.
views.
All right, so buy my book, get a reading today, or go online and schedule yourself at anniechannels.com. I do Zoom readings all the time. I don't do much in person anymore because I like to record them for you. You remember the tape recorder? I did the tapes for years until the young gal goes, what's this? I'm like, uh-oh, I gotta catch up on technology. Thank you folks online for watching.